So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world. And welcome to another interview of the Chill Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector. And tonight I'm joined by Ryan Caudell, and he's the singer, guitar player for the band Sounds and Shape. So, Ryan, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
I'm doing well as well. So, I remember when I got the promo for this band, I didn't know the band, but I read,
Mhm.
like the influences, Biffy Clyro, Catatonia, and I'm like, yeah, this sounds interesting. So this, if I'm not mistaken, this is the band's fourth album, right?
I think technically it's our fifth, but one of our records is kind of short, so some people count it, some people don't.
Okay, yeah, they put it as an EP, but 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 yeah, I know what you mean. So you have Hourglass, Bad Actors, and one that got critical acclaim was Disaster Medicine back in 2022. So this is the follow
Mhm.
up to this, and the album is called Pillars of Creation. Uh, so I was reading. So tell me a little bit that this album you recorded everything in 8 days. Tell me a little bit about that process.
Yeah. We were so we worked with a producer on this one, which we didn't on the last one. We did it all ourselves. And so we were hoping to have like 2 weeks to do this one. And Wil Anspach, who did this one, uh, said about maybe 3 weeks before we were going to do the record, hey, I actually got put on another project, so I only have this amount of time. And he's from LA, we're in Nashville. um, so we were like, well, we don't want to split it up because that would be him having to fly out twice, and we were like, we just want to get it done. So we were like, well, we'll just do it in that 8 day stretch. So we just got in there and did it.
But did you go into the studio like already having like knowing the songs that you were going to record?
Yeah.
Or- yeah, I'm guessing because yeah, 8 days is like a stretch. So yeah, and I think he's worked with bands. I read like Metallica and some big name bands, right?
Yeah. He's worked with a lot of big names. We're probably the smallest that he's worked with.
Hey, you
He
gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he either engineered or assistant engineered with a lot of big bands. I can't remember which. I think it was Death Magnetic for Metallica, and I know he worked with Muse.
I read
And
Muse. Yeah, I read Muse.
yeah,
I read
Chili
that he worked
Peppers.
with different bands. And so yeah, that different bands that work with him. But this album, like your band, when I was listening to all the songs on this record, I get a lot of like different influences from different types of styles of music. Like you could hear like Queen, Porcupine X, and I see that you're big fans of King's X as well.
Yeah, I had heard their name, all through the years, and I'd never really listened to them before.
Okay.
Incidentally signed us to the deal that we're currently signed to. I was like, oh man, you gotta, you know, listening to our band, he was like, you guys must be King's X fans, and I was like, um, I haven't really heard much of him. I've heard about him, and he's like, no, you gotta listen, you gotta listen. So I started going through the discography, and I was like, yeah, these guys are absolute geniuses. Absolutely fell in love with Ty's guitar playing and Doug and Jerry and everything, and then I saw they were coming. They were doing a couple of shows in our region.
Mhm.
Um, so I reached out to try to get on and support, and we actually did get put on one of those shows. And their manager happened to be at the show that we opened, and he ended up becoming our manager. So
Okay.
we've been lucky enough, yeah. So we've been lucky enough to open for King's X a lot, and we really developed a really good relationship with them, and they've all become friends with us, and uh, Ty has become a huge guitar influence of mine. Um, so their influence kind of came more recently, but yeah, they've definitely impacted our music for sure.
Awesome. So, for people that don't know Sound and Shape, tell us a little bit about like the history of the band, how you guys got together.
So it's actually pretty long. I used to play in another band around Nashville. Um, that, we started getting relatively kind of, I don't want to say big, but medium sized around here. And then our bass player decided to go to college. So me and the drummer from that band decided to continue on. But we knew we wanted to change the name. So that sort of morphed into Sound and Shape. And we went through a ton of lineup changes, and we toured like crazy when we first started. I mean, like, I think, right when we decided to continue, we booked like, most of a year of touring. Like, we just kept doing it and kept doing it. No manager, no agent, no idea really of how to do it, or why to do it. And it was, looking back, I would never do that again. It taught us a lot of what not to do, but it also ran us into the ground, and we burned through members, and so we just kind of spun our wheels for years and years, and he eventually left, and we had other members leave and come, and fast forward a number of years, we finally got an agent. Had gone through a couple of management teams that just didn't work out, and had a tour booked, and my current the drummer at the time wasn't going to be able to do it, so I reached out to Ben, who is now our drummer, to see if he would fill in, and he said, "Yeah, it's like, I think it was like a 10 day, it was a short one." And like maybe 4 or 5 days before that tour was supposed to start, current bass player was like, "Oh yeah, I'm not doing this tour either." And I was like,
Oh, wow.
"Wait, what?" So we ended up having to get a fill in, but and that was that bass player's last tour, or last thing with us. And I know it's cliche to say, but like literally the second Ben and I started playing together, it was just like, it was just a rehearsal with me and him, and we both just kind of looked at each other and went, "Hey, this feels good." And so I
Yeah, you
think,
had that instant chemistry.
yeah, yeah, and it's only grown since then. And I think before the tour even started, we were both like, "Hey, let's, when this is over, let's talk, and let's make sure we can keep this going." And then Pat, our bass player, joined just a couple months after that, and so it's been this lineup for about 6.5 years now.
So
Um,
is this lineup has been on this lineup was on the last album then?
yeah,
On
yeah,
the I'm not sure if in Bad Actors, but at least with Disaster Medicine, you had the same
yeah,
lineup that is for this record. So
yeah.
you already had that record now, and you've gelled as a band. So how do you think
Mhm.
the main difference from Disaster Medicine to Pillars of Creation is in sound?
Um, I think, our goal as a band in all things we do is always to move forward.
Mm,
Um, and in moving forward, also moving out. So expanding all the time. And always pushing what we do in all ways. So, if some of the songs on Disaster Medicine, I think a couple of them pushed like 5 minutes. We were going to have some pushing almost 7 minutes on this one. Like, we knew going into this record that
mm.
I wanted to write some longer pieces. And a couple of the songs on this album, the demos, hit like 8 minutes, I think.
Yeah, because this is a prog album, but it's got accessible songs. It's not super long.
Right.
It's 54 minutes,
Hmm.
uh, and it's super. Like there's some great singing on it. So
Thank you.
it's that's why I saw comparisons to Biffy Clyro, but also
Hmm.
some prog bands. So for you, Ryan, being the main focus writer on this, like uh, when you're like tackling the lyrics, like what is your process with lyrics?
It kind of depends. Like, I I kind of write all the time. Like, the faucet is kind of always on.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's more open than others. But so usually there's phrases, or, whole lines sometimes that are just floating around in my head. So I'm always putting them in my notes in my phone, or I'm jotting them down on paper. So then when I have a finished piece of music, um, I'll see where the melody is leading, and then what words I can kind of hang on those notes of the melody and see what fits. And also if it fits the mood, you know, like I I do like the idea of sort of juxtaposing dark music with sunny lyrics and sort of vice versa as well.
Yeah,
But
it
I
kind
don't
of reminded me a little bit of like a Coheed and Cambria in that respect.
sometimes, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I don't like doing that all the time because I feel like, you know, you don't if you do that too often, you're sort of if the listener is really paying attention to the whole song, you're eventually going to take them
Mhm.
out of it because if you've got this really dark music, but you're singing about puppies and unicorns, then eventually they're just gonna, you know, they're not gonna go on the journey with you.
Yeah.
But this record is a little bit more. Uh, I don't know. I was willing to go a little deeper lyrically with it,
Mhm.
which is kind of funny because we knew going into it that you know we this record was going to come out in a wider scale and more people were hopefully theoretically going to listen to it. Um, so you know after it came out, I started thinking about it, or after we you know finished it, and I was like, maybe maybe going as deep as I did was the you know not the wrong reaction, but like I'm surprised I did that knowing it was going to be released on a wider scale. But
Is
yeah, I
it
don't.
because like it's more of a personal record?
Yeah, a lot of the themes. You know, I'm a dad. I have an 11-year-old son, and so everything you know my worldview changed the day I became a dad.
Oh, I
You
know.
know,
I'm a father too.
yeah. So you know,
Yeah.
so now I don't look at things anywhere near the same as I did before he was born because everything I see is all in relation to him. It doesn't necessarily matter in relation to me anymore because he is the extension of me that I need to worry about more so than myself, you know? So it's like, you know, what world are we leaving to our children? And more specifically, what examples am I setting for my son, and what world am I leaving for my son? And I think that you know that's got to be a pretty universal thing to think about when you're a mother and a father, or you know
I
that
would
kind of thing.
agree. Like, I'm not this. When I became a father, I have two. I have a daughter and a son. But when she, like, even before she was born, like, when before I was like thinking like things of like job stability. So yeah,
Hmm.
it really changes your perspective because it's no longer you you're taking care of.
Right.
You're taking care of other people. So you have that like that extra weight on your shoulders of responsibility
Yeah.
that you probably
Yeah.
didn't have before. So
Right. And you know the you know not to get too in the weeds you know politically or anything, but you know the states right now are just kind of in utter chaos, you know, and my son is a very sweet, very empathetic, very kind person who is always looking out for the people around him, and especially his best friends. You know, he has a very small group of friends, but they're very tight. And you know, like I don't want the world around him to take that away from him. You know, I always want him to
okay.
be empathetic and caring and you know accepting of all the things you know and so yeah a lot of the record sort of deals with not letting outside factors sort of impinge upon you as a person
Yeah,
and
that's
how
interesting.
yeah and how tough that is because as you know as you grow up you're constantly bombarded by you know things in the media and movies and books and I'm you know I mean art in general is giving you a viewpoint
Hmm.
you know I know very well that as a songwriter and as an artist like and as a band like we are offering our viewpoint but I try to do it in a way that's like showing a picture saying this is a snapshot of what we're saying is one thing as opposed to being like this is how you should think or this is how you should feel or you know
It's your point of view of how you
right
think. Yeah. So
right
that's
and
interesting. Yeah.
no I'm sorry go ahead
No, and because I was gonna ask you about the lead single that you choose because I think it makes sense now. Ruining the fairy tale.
hmm
Uh, Tell me a little bit about that song.
yeah exactly that's actually what I was going to say it's like you know that song sort of surface level is about, you know, we're sort of, you know, you grow up being shown these movies and TV shows about, you know, romances and how, you know, how love is a very romantic love is a very clear cut thing that has these parameters around it, and everything fits inside these parameters, and um, you know, it can break outside, but then the only way to make it all happy and clean again is to bring it back in, and you
Yeah.
know, love is real, actual romantic love is messy and it's dirty and it hurts, and it, you know, it hurts as much as it feels good and stuff. And that song, you know, the main part of the chorus is, "Are you mad at love for ruining the fairy tale?" It mean, you know, to me, um, it's just saying, like, you know, are you, you know, once you actually see the reality of how personal relationships work, um, you know, are you gonna just, you know, collapse because it's not, you know, Cinderella or, you know, Princess Bride or whatever, or are you going to sort of embrace the chaos of what, you know, personal relationships really are, and just enjoy the ups and downs and the bad and the good and everything that comes with it? So I mean, it's a lot to put in a 4 minute, essentially pop rock and roll song, but
Yeah,
you know,
no, but it's a great tune,
thank you.
and I really like the melodic singing on this record. I really enjoyed that part.
Thank you.
The other single that you just put out recently is "Don't Make Me Believe."
Mhm.
What do you mean with that one?
Yeah, so don't make me make believe. It's kind of a double
Don't
thing,
make
and
me make
then
believe. Yeah, of course.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. No, no, you're fine. It's so it's kind of a twofold thing with the title. Like, don't make me make believe, as in don't make, you know, don't make your idea of me fake. You know, like don't make me fake to you. Like, don't make me sort of invisible to you. Like, I'm just here as a
Yeah.
sort of placeholder entity in our interactions. You know, like, um, how you can have sort of people in your life who you're just sort of superficially around, you know. Not saying every relationship has to be this sort of super, you know, tight binding thing, but, like, you know, if I'm going to take the time to really bring you into the circle to have a conversation or something, like, you know, I want it to be
Yeah.
painful, you know, like, it's not
Yeah. I
just, you know,
think
to
what
quote Larry
you
David, it's not a stop and chat, you know, like, you know.
I think what you're getting at in
um
that is that I think in modern times there's a lot of like relationships that are like very fake, and people don't get
yeah,
the time to know each other. It's all about like image, and people don't sit like and talk like normal human beings anymore.
right,
So I want to show the artwork of the record, because now that you're explaining to me like most of the concept, the artwork is making a lot of sense. So
yeah.
okay, because I see a lot of like child blogs and things doing like with the childhood. So now it's making sense. So and plus it's called Pillars of Creation. So
Hmm.
tell me a little bit about the artwork and what you're trying to convey.
So yeah, so I'm a huge Noel Gallagher fan.
Oh, yeah.
Um
Oh, I love
like,
Oasis well as too.
yeah. And so there's a guy named Gareth Halliday, who is a British artist who did he did all of Noel's artwork, from, I think, everything starting with the singles for Who Built the Moon
Mhm.
through all the EPs after that. Like all the, like, Black Star Dancing and all that stuff. Like, I'm a huge Noel nerd, so like,
No,
uh,
yeah.
and I loved all that artwork, because to me it was slightly hypnosis type stuff, you know, like the Pink Floydy sort of stuff, but a lot more modern, and also sort of collagey, like the Smashing Pumpkins, like melancholy era stuff, which I love.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the back,
Yeah.
it does look, yeah.
Mhm.
Now that you mentioned melancholy, yeah, I totally see it.
So I just reached out to him one day, just out of curiosity, to be like, hey, you know, would you be interested in doing my really tiny band's artwork for the next record? Fully expecting him to say, you know, no, or I don't really have time, or sure, but here's my price quote, and it'd be, you know, way out of our range. But he was completely cool. He was like, yeah, I'd love to. Here's my price. It was very affordable. And he was tremendous to work with. I sent him at the time, we had some demos of the new stuff. So I sent him those. He had me send him the record, or all the lyrics to the record that I had. So I sent him those. And he had me go in and pick out some of the images in the record, like in the lyrics, that I thought would make good visual images. And I can't remember all the ones I picked out, but I know the first.
So there's a lot of Easter eggs on the cover.
Yeah, I know the first line of Ruining the Fairy Tale, are we statues in deserted temples? I highlighted that one, which I think is where the main image came from, the head and stuff. And he sent, I want to say this is maybe I think the first one he sent didn't have the stuff on the bottom, like it was more of a blank kind of bottom. And I loved it. And then he was like, wait, let me send one more. And then he sent this, and all three of us were immediately like, yep, that's it.
Yeah, it's a really cool album artwork. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
see this album artwork and I think prog.
Mhm.
It's got that progginess. So yeah, and the name Pillars of Creation,
Mhm.
is it because of what we've been talking about, of like the themes on the record? Like is like, is it like a concept record per se, or is it just like a different type of themes?
No, yeah, it's definitely not a concept record. I've tried to tackle those in the past, but yeah, I mean, every record we do, being the one who writes the lyrics, like I think they do all, each record sort of probably has themes that fit together in that batch of songs, just because I'm writing, whatever's going on up here, for better or worse. Uh, but yeah, it's definitely, like I said, definitely not a concept record, but yeah, there's definitely themes that interweave sort of through the record, and that's why we wanted to do like an intro and an outro to it as well.
Yeah, no, and yeah, because you have the two intros. You have Pillars of Creation. At the end, you have the Peace in Destruction, and it's like you hear like, I think, I don't remember if it was Children, but it was like kind of pretty at the end. So my favorite, I think my favorite, I like a lot, God Shakes a Fist. I thought that one was pretty interesting.
Thank you.
So tell me a little bit about that one. I know that one isn't a single, but I thought it was a very interesting song, and I like the title.
Thank you. Yeah, that one. So it's kind of funny. I'm Jewish, right?
Okay.
Uh, but I'm an atheist. So I was born Jewish because my mother's Jewish, and that's the thing with Jews. We're Jews, no matter what,
You can't
Um,
escape it.
no, no. And we have good food, so it's fine. Um, but I'm an atheist, but I like to use a lot of religious imagery in my lyrics, because it's very evocative of sort of this universal search for truth that I think even non-religious people are part of, whether they want to admit it or not. But just because I'm an atheist, that doesn't mean I don't think that there's something that we're part of. I just don't think it's a guy sitting in the clouds with a beard yelling at us.
That sounds like
Um,
Gandalf.
yeah,
Lord of the Rings, yeah.
yeah. But that song, I'm trying to remember the lyrics in particular, because we haven't started playing that one live yet. But it's sort of like, the chorus is basically saying, like, there's supposedly this angry, vengeful God, and he's shaking a fist at the world, or they are shaking. I didn't want to gender the God in this particular
Okay.
story.
It's an entity.
Yeah, right. But you have this angry, vengeful deity who's yelling at the world, and making all these bad things happen, under the threat of eternal damnation. But with his other hand, he's putting his hand over the mouths of the angels, saying, "Don't tell them that there's no hell. That all these fires are the ones that they create themselves."
Yeah.
You know,
Interesting.
which means that they could also solve these problems. themselves.
And
They're
you had a good name with God Shakes a Fist, because it could have been named God Has a Hissy Fit.
yeah, that would work too. That would work too.
Yeah, but I think that would have pissed more people off. But yeah, I
Probably.
like it, and I like the also Song-Haired Sky Mother. I really like the themes on this record, and the other one that I really like is How to Talk to Ghosts.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite on the record.
Yeah, what's that one about?
That song is we have actually started playing that one live, and it's been getting a really good reaction. It's so I'm you probably wouldn't know it from talking to me because I've been yammering, but I'm pretty much an introvert, and
Okay.
so that song is kind of like the instance of when you're sort of in a crowd, but you still feel like you're alone, and you kind of
Oh yeah.
don't know how to navigate like where to go. It's like you go to a party and you don't really know anybody there, so you're not quite sure how to navigate, like, well, do I go talk to that person I've met once, or do I just sit here and wait for like my actual friends to get here, or do I go sit on the couch and just sort of ride the wave, or do I try to break through that introvert barrier and go talk to that person I've never met. um and so it's a song about sort of like kind of going through the options, I guess, and also just just sort of feeling alienated, like kind of anywhere, I guess.
Yeah,
That one's probably the deepest, most personal one on the album.
Yeah, no, but I've read that type of concept before. Like, for example, on Steven Wilson's album "Hand Cannot Erase," the whole theme of the record is like someone feeling so alone in the city that it was based on something real. This woman that died, and no one
Oh
knew her,
yeah.
and they found her dead a year later, and she was living in a big city,
Yeah.
and that's just like how alone you can be, even in a place very crowded. To me, I don't feel that living in Puerto Rico, but when I lived in Florida, I felt that, man.
Yeah.
Your country can be lonely.
Yeah, it can. I mean, America's
Yeah.
it's in a weird spot, man.
Yeah. When I
Like
go to
it's
concerts here in Puerto Rico, I used to go to concerts there, and I could talk to no one and just see the bands. And I had fun seeing the bands, but I'm like, I miss talking to people. But when I go to concerts here, I talk to a lot of people. Like, I find friends. Like, I think we're
right.
a very talkative bunch. So it's I can understand that feeling. So
Yeah.
it's like you feeling like a ghost among living people.
Yeah.
Basically, the track. Yeah, pretty deep track. And so I know the album is out now. Where can they follow you on the socials?
So we're at Sound and Shape, like the word AND, so SOUNDANDSHAPE on Instagram and Facebook. On all the streaming stuff though, it's Sound ampersand Shape.
So it's Sound and Shape, because I was trying to find you guys, and I'm like, I can't find them. Now I found you.
Yeah.
Sound and Shape. And the album, where can people buy the album? Because it's out now.
Yeah.
At least,
So
do you have like physical formats, or is it
yeah.
just digitally for now?
Yeah. We've got CDs, and then we've got vinyl. We've got regular black vinyl, and we have colored vinyl as well. And if you go to our website, there's a link to like our merch site and all that. And the website is soundandshape.net.
Okay, yeah, I'll put it on for people who want to pre-order, not pre-order, buy the record, because it's already out. So now that the record is out, what's next for Sound and Shape? Do you have some shows planned?
We do. We have a one-off coming up this weekend in Birmingham, and then we're out with King's X for a week, in a couple weeks, and then we're home for a little bit, and then we're doing some more shows with them at the end of July, and then we're working on stuff for September through the end of the year right now. So
Yeah, so
but yeah,
awesome.
the plan is to be everywhere for this record. So
Yeah, that's a good thing. So people, the album Pillars of Creation by Sounds and Shape is out now. I'll put the link for people who want to buy it, or if you want to stream it. It's everywhere now. So Ryan, anything that you'd like to say to the fans before we leave tonight?
I just really appreciate everybody listening. It's, it's starting to do okay at streaming, which is very heartening. And thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. So, people, you heard it here on the Shield on a Couch. Go if I would recommend this if you like prog, and if you like prog with also like that accessibility, like all the bands that we've been discussing, give this a try because it's a pretty cool record, and it's got like I think it's got that like that crossover appeal that even if you don't like prog, you can like this. So at least for me, that's what I feel when I listen to this music. So until next time, people, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a Couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.